Tan Yuyang looked at the rest. If I were your enemy, I wouldn't have come here alone. I'm here to talk about cooperating. Xie Yuxin. Let's talk. You guys are stuck in a dead end. Except for Wang Zheng and Xie Yuxin, who are able to put up a fight, the rest are a burden. You guys are no match for Catalana and Bilro. The most dangerous person is Mo Ling. He will strike when you least expect. If we are all doomed, what are you here for? Menga said. Suddenly, Tan Yuyang waved his hand. Boom, Menga's body smashed against the wall. Tan Yuyang wiped his hand and said, Xie Yuxin, your companion is rude. You should know that I am your only hope. Wang Zheng and the rest did not stop him. Menga had lost control of his emotions, and it was time to teach him a lesson. We are your opportunity as well. Once we get rid of these two people, you will be one step closer to being the son of Saint. As you know, we have no interest in this place, and only want to leave, Xie Yuxin said. Each for their own interest, but first I have to say that if you guys are too weak, I may turn on you, Tan Yuyang said. I like true villains, and you should know our strength as well, Xie Yuxin said. That's good. After he said those words, he gradually vanished into thin air. This was not a physical technique, but ability X. These people did not only know ancient martial arts, but possessed sufficient understanding and mastery of ability X as well. It was clear that Tan Yuyang was being merciful, if not, Menga would not have been able to stand up. That slap woke Menga up. Earth-rank warriors required their mech, and without a mech, their battle capabilities would differ. The stage had been set, and now they were simply waiting for their opponent to come. The battle was unavoidable, and it would be a tough one. Horrifying screams occasionally came from the outside. For normal candidates, what they wanted was to survive, and fights of this level were none of their concern. The Great Elder sat quietly in the temple, meditating. Everything within the holy city was within his control. After waiting for so many years, it was finally here. In the air, the figures in the petri dish increased, but things did not seem to be going well, as failures followed one after another. Together with the killing in the holy city, it seemed like it was hell in here. Lear opened his eyes. Next to him was Luo Fei. They were the strongest ones here, and so were their wills. Their desire to survive surpassed everything else, and they had no fear, so being in complete pain is nothing to them. Just as Luo Fei had said, even as a monster, he had a partner. In one corner of the temple, Weiyan was alone on a bed. She was afraid. There was nothing there, and food would appear through a small window during mealtimes. There was only darkness here, and she did not like the darkness. At this time, the door opened. Weiyan opened her eyes helplessly, looking at the dark figure walking towards her. Who would save her now? From the Milky Way Alliance, the Thunder Alliance reacted quickly but cowardly. They dismantled the cabinet, sealed the fleet, and enthusiastically welcomed the inspection by the Milky Way Alliance. The Thunder Alliance is not as strong as Heaven's Arrow, and their military was much weaker, and after feeling the killing intent from the Aslan Empire, they surrendered. The Thunder Alliance's reaction meant nothing to Kashawan. I would actually be better if they had resisted, as there were some outdated weapons that they needed to get rid of. The Thunder Alliance was completely taken over and the executives were under surveillance. They were going to be investigated one by one. As for how they would be conducted, and with what standards, it was not according to the Milky Way Alliance's standard protocol. It was relatively efficient as well. The Thunder Alliance's governing body had been completely revamped and a new temporary government had appeared. The Milky Way Alliance would not harm civilians, but a new mining agreement was signed, and for it to be under the control of the military. This was to prevent important resources from falling into the hands of terrorists. The resources of the mysterious fleet had been found to be from the previous government of the Thunder Alliance. Whether they had directly supplied it or it was through a third party, the blame was definitely on the previous government. The Heaven's Arrow Federation actively prepared for battle. They had no retreat. The government would not give in. To retreat would mean death. They were not the same as the Thunder Alliance, and through various preparations, all members were ready for battle, to live and die with their country. This was not enough. The Milky Way Alliance fleet was not made up of elites. The elite fleets of various countries were moving towards the Oracle Star. On the one hand, they were considering the strength of others. On the other hand, No country wanted to be left behind, as that planet contained numerous technology and secrets. They knew that whichever county obtained it would receive a tremendous leap in power, advancements worth at least a couple of decades. Hence, other than Aslan, Arbiter, Manalasuo, Hail Cloud Alliance, and other countries deployed their strongest fleet. The Heaven's Arrow Federation would not give up on this opportunity either. They had the strength to do so, and the Maya Empire had been exceptionally active in this incident, signaling that they wanted to participate in international issues. They were not like the Atlanteans, they did not want to be neutral, they wanted resources, status, and to develop. Not only that, in the whole Alliance fleet, the most enthusiastic would be the Mayan fleet, volunteering to be the vanguard. Fleets of various countries formed an encirclement. The vast spaceship fleet easily defeated the outer planets belonging to the Heaven's Arrow Federation, so only the 3 core planets were left, but those were surrounded as well. Commander-in-Chief, the Heavenly Crystal Division is ready for battle, Matt Locatelli said as he saluted. Locatelli nodded his head. I hope your division will be the first to occupy the Heaven's Arrow Federation's capital and fly Maya's flag. Yes. Mayans were different from Atlanteans. They had ambition and a strong desire for expansion. The true battle was not the fight, but the usage of energy. In this aspect, no one could be compared with the Mayans. The Maya Empire felt that this was an excellent opportunity to show off their military might, and to deter other countries. With such an opportunity now, they would definitely not miss it. The current Heaven's Arrow Federation had fallen into despair. Even with their connections with the Saint, it had yet to reach the stage where they were under the complete control of the Saint, and hence there was no reason for the Saint to fight for them. The situation had developed to a point where it could no longer be stopped. For the people of the Heaven's Arrow Federation, it would be either surrender or fight to the death. They chose the latter. DeRozan gave the command for the fleet to attack. Countless Zeus Shield battleships activated their laser cannons, locking on the major military facilities on the planet. In this situation, the Heaven's Arrow Federation was completely vulnerable, and who knew what they were expecting? Lin Weyan was still in the first stage of the experiment in the images above. Her genes were in a state of erosion, but this wasn't the Weyan in the temple. The door opened and a sense of crisis shrouded her. She might not be as courageous as her elder sister, but she could not be afraid at this time, as the Princess of Aslan. Weyan stood up, still shaking. But, this aura, I don't care who you are, I'm the Princess of the Aslan Empire. You don't need to think about getting anything from me, Weyan said loudly. I will not yield. The person who walked in smiled. That special, white robe was only worn by the Great Elder of the Saint. That silver-gray hair was that special. The Great Elder touched his face to slightly adjust his face, revealing a bright and awkward smile. Young lass, you have courage, but your enemies won't care about your reaction. Lin Weyan was taken aback. The room brightened and Lin Weyan stared at the person in front of her, unable to believe her eyes. Grand, Father, didn't you go to heaven? Lin Weyan's voice had happiness and a bit of doubt. Weyan might not have been very experienced in war, but that there was no lack of training in anti-terrorism by the royal palace. A change of appearance was nothing special. My dear lass, you were always most sensitive to the soul. Don't you know who I am? The Great Elder smiled. Lin Weyan's gift was charm and sensitivity to souls. She had her own unique way of identification. It was the same with Aina, with Wang Zheng. She saw things differently. She could feel Wang Zheng's warm and gentle soul, which attracted her greatly. The person in front of her truly had a familiar feeling. There was also the glow of the bloodline. It was really her grandfather. Weyan's tears fell in bunches and she ran over barefooted. This was the former king of the Aslan Empire, the father of Prime Minister Kushawin, and he was also the Great Elder of the Saint. Aina's father wasn't incompetent, but he just wanted to avoid gossip. The government affairs were handed over to Kushawin, allowing Constantine Aslan to be free. This was the most secretive plan of the Aslan Empire. Only 3 people were in on it: Constantine Aslan, Kushawin Aslan, and Bettina Aslan. In fact, it was a plan that spun over 100 years. Every step until Constantine became the Great Elder. He had to step down as the King of Aslan and disappear from people's sight then. The only way was through death. From the beginning, the ones who worked closely with the Saint Church obtained the most. There were some twists and turns, but they had finally reached this day. Wei Yan wasn't stupid. She didn't know much, but she knew something was very wrong here. Wei Yan, you've grown up. You have to bear a lot as the Princess of Aslan. I can't answer the questions you have now, but our Aslan Empire is about to enter the most critical point in our history. Survive or perish here. Constantine Aslan caressed Wei Yan's head and kindly said, you have to participate in the things after. Both you and Aina have to shoulder heavy responsibilities. The same thing was happening in the Aslan Empire. Aina couldn't believe it. The successful abduction of Wei Yan and the failure of her abduction were all arranged by Kashawan. This original order of the Milky Way alliance was broken. Now everything was moving in another direction. Aina was silent for quite a while. Kashawan was satisfied with this response. It was time to let Aina know since things had developed to this stage. She had to choose her position. The blow of this matter was too huge. That series of activities from the early days of the Saint World until the recent kidnapping, if you think about it, the Saint World had been ignored probably also because of the Aslan Empire. The technology of Aslan had been in the forefront of the Milky Way alliance probably also because of the technology provided by the Saint. But why the war? Isn't it better for us to maintain the country's peace and well-being like this? Aina asked. This plan was too scary. It would send the whole Milky Way alliance into war. Why would Aslan do that? Kashawan smiled. The Milky Way alliance has changed. You can see that other than a few countries, most of them are just wasting their resources and engaging in the bureaucratic processes. Human society is on continuous decline, and only we can change this fact. We must establish a new system and not wait until everything crashes. We have to bring humanity back to the right path. Auntie, that is just aggression. You can't stand on this. It's true that the Milky Way alliance has various problems, but it's not a reason for launching a war. This will bring about a fatal disaster to the Aslan Empire. Aina finally reacted. The Aslan Empire might be big, but they could not possibly defeat the Milky Way alliance. Kashawan smiled. Your reaction is very good. This is just one of the reasons. The strength of Aslan is not because we are outstanding, but because we have the precious wealth and technology left behind from the previous generation. However, this advantage is about to be broken. The Saint's successor is about to descend. This means that our core strengths could cease to exist. Not only would they become someone else's, but we would also become a target. Our country's development has reached a bottleneck. The Aslan Empire's military spending is 4 times that of other countries. You should understand this concept. This plan was born when our S-rank prophet predicted this disaster. Isn't this too arbitrary because of a mere prophecy? Auntie, you have to know that time and space will change constantly with the changes in events, Aina said. Kashawan didn't show the domineering aura of the past, but looked at Aina very patiently. Do you think Auntie is foolish? That question put Aina in a bind. Kashawan stood up. Your grandpa, father, and I have put great effort into this process. We have been observing all these years until 2 years ago, when the signs became more prominent. We had no choice but to make preparations. Even if the Aslan Empire stalls for decades instead of being destroyed, do you think that's any different from being dead? The country standing at the apex of the Milky Way alliance had suddenly become the target of criticism. All sorts of repression and vengeance would erupt. No matter what, it was something intolerable. Wasn't there any other way, Auntie? Do you know what it will bring? Kashawan gazed at Aina. I know, but it's too late now. Fate likes to play with people. Do you know who pushed the Aslan Empire to this stage? Kashawan stared at Aina and her face paled. Wang Zheng. Kashawan sighed and nodded. This was only confirmed after the SIG. We checked his background before, and it was very normal. But he has been creating miracles ever since. I have to say that your relationship clouded my judgment. I thought that his ability erupted because of you, because of love, but that was actually only one of the reasons. Kashawan admitted to it today. Auntie, it's not too late to stop. I can convince Wang Zheng even if he really is the successor of the Saint Church. I believe he will choose me, not the Saint Church, Aina said. She was going to stop this war with all her might. Silly girl, he might choose you, but it has already appeared. We are not the only ones looking at him. Do you know what kind of power that is? It can overthrow all the knowledge of today and create a new era. The other countries would not let go of this chance. There are also the other elders of the saint. We can control the resources of the saint, but we can't control their ambitions. It's too late, Kushawin said. The great elder deduced that the oracle was on Wang Zheng. He believed that the rest of the elders could see it too. Putting Wang Zheng in sight was to maintain order. However, once he was hidden, that would be utter destruction. In this situation, the oracle wasn't the most important. Wang Zheng was. If Aslan couldn't get him, then the best way would be for Wang Zheng to disappear. The power of the Aslan Empire and the Saint would then be able to conquer the whole Milky Way alliance. Moreover, Aslan had comrades. The rest were just keyboard warriors. Kushawin opened her Skylink and two images popped up. One was of the Alliance's fleet nearing the Oracle Star and the other was the battle scene of the Heaven's Arrow Federation. Aina understood immediately. This was the best way for the Aslan Empire to gain power. The Saints' forces would defeat the Alliance fleet with minimal causalities and the Heaven's Arrow Federation would not be able to defend themselves. The Thunder Alliance and the Heaven's Arrow Federation were targeted because of their mineral deposits. A long, drawn-out battle would need endless resources for machines and mecha. These two had plenty of raw materials. They were the most greedy and lazy countries, having always relied on selling resources. The Aslan Empire was fully prepared for battle. That was something the other countries probably didn't think of. The Milky Way Alliance looks big and scary, but only a few countries could affect us. Atlantis is our comrade, they are neutral. The Maya Empire is ambitious and hopes to gain an advantage, we can pull them close. The rest are not to be feared. We will build a whole new, unified country. Aina, we are not fighting a long-drawn war, but a quick one. We are ahead in terms of military strength and our reserve of heaven-rank warriors. Aina didn't know about the core powers, but she was about to. I know that the matters from today are having a huge impact on you. You should take a while to mull over it. She paused. Wang Zheng and you are not suitable for each other. The precious stone lands its innocent possessor in jail. Moreover, you should know his character better than me. Kushawin understood Wang Zheng very well by now. The others were cowards and were corrupted. They would yield sooner or later. There were only that many with combat power. Their enemy wasn't the whole Milky Way Alliance. Wang Zheng, what a pity, Aslan would have grabbed him if he wasn't like that. However, there was no hope in that. Constantine knew better. This was the chosen one. The Milky Way Alliance moved confidently towards the Oracle Star. Everyone was filled with faith and courage. They didn't know that they were completely exposed. The scariest part was that their leader was with the enemy. They weren't the core of each country, but they were also elites who had lost their judgment. On the other battlefront, the Heaven's Arrow Federation was done for. The Maya Empire showed their powerful attacks, engulfing the Heaven's Arrow Federation in hell. Occupation was just a matter of time. At the same, the other countries in the Milky Way Alliance were just desperately securing their safety. The anti-war organizations continued with their slogans, but it wasn't useful. Prime Minister, Aina changed the way she addressed Kushawin. Kushawin stopped in her tracks and turned back to Aina. Don't rush, you have ample time to decide. I can try to understand, but I can't do it. Whatever I've learned and experienced won't allow me to agree to this war. As the princess of the Aslan Empire, I can't go against my own country. Prime Minister, imprison me, because I don't know if I will do anything to harm my country and my loved one. Aina's voice lost its strength. She had been learning how to make Aslan prosper in the ways of peace when she was young. She could not convince herself of the reasons that Aslan had suddenly become the source of war. There was also Wang Zheng. She used to have courage and was even fearless because she held on to her beliefs. That was gone now. Kushawin looked at Aina. Forbid everyone from making contact with the princess. Report all abnormalities to me immediately. No one is to be allowed to be near her without my direct order. Yes, Prime Minister. Guards were already at the door. Aina's reaction was within Kushawin's expectations. She had to break it to her anyway. It was a fate she could not avoid due to being born into this family. A lack of ambition. This was the congenital weakness of most women. Of course, time wasn't on Aina's side. She was just having the best fantasies about love and the world. If it was another 10 years, she would have been numbed by the ugliness and darkness of life. Her goal would have changed, but the Aslan Empire couldn't wait until then, so she had to mature quickly. As for Weiyan, they had chosen to abduct her because she wasn't moldable, but she was enough to garner support and fill the anger of the people. When a country was too strong, it was easy to throw the so-called peace out of balance. They would riot if their interests were threatened. Aina was in a daze. Tears fell and she suddenly felt so lonely, too lonely. She had always been proud of the fact that she was the princess of Aslan, even when she was at the toughest period with Wang Zheng. However, everything that supported her had now broken down. Wang Zheng was still in the Oracle Star. He had gone for himself and to save Weiyan in the end. That couldn't be done. She had to save Wang Zheng no matter what. However, she found cold and strange soldiers standing outside the door when she opened it. She couldn't get in contact with Lacus. Kashawin cut off her contact with the outside world when she told her the truth. This was of paramount importance to the survival of the Aslan Empire. The temple, in the laboratory for the experimental guardians. Meng Tian was just receiving the second vaccination since she arrived. The subjects had to enter the petri dishes repeatedly throughout the process. According to their experiments, it was only possible to complete the process if they survived the 5th stage. The last stage was the longest. Pain came and went, eroding her will. It was very painful, but she could bear it. Meng Tian's character was more stubborn. She was different from other girls, living in her own world. She hoped that Wang Zheng could come at times and hoped that he didn't for the rest of the time. Her worst fear was for Wang Zheng to come but not for her. She hoped that he wouldn't come in the end, because there was no hope for survival. The enemy was too strong. Perhaps Wang Zheng was with Aina now. Number S12967. A cold voice called out the number on her chest. Meng Tian walked up slowly and extended her arm out. An injection gun with 3 syringes lowered down and found her blood vessels accurately. It quickly pumped the injections labeled IK78 into her blood. At the same time, a crimson pill was dispensed from the mechanical pharmacy. Ingest within 10 minutes, a mechanical voice instructed. There was no explanation, only complete control. The staff wasn't worried about the subjects not following instructions, because the result would be worse. These medications and drugs were meant to help them to live, to improve the chances of their survival. They would be seeking death otherwise. Of course, that was fine as well because those without a strong will to survive would be dead before long anyway. Number S12987. A lanky woman emerged from behind Meng Tian, making almost no sound with her footsteps, but muttering to herself. Her loose shirt was filled with the same quirky symbol. She stopped suddenly and didn't walk towards the injection gun. Instead, she lurched at Meng Tian. "It's you, it's you, it's you." The crazy howling reminded Meng Tian of the winter when she was 13 years old. The male reindeer was her first prey. Her heart softened and she missed its vital organ. Her father didn't end its suffering, rather, he made her stand in front of it and watch it. Its eyes were desperate and painful, exactly the same as this lanky woman's now. Her father said that she had grown up and should know that a soft heart would sometimes spell even more hurt and unnecessary suffering. That reindeer was saved nonetheless because her ability X awakened as she watched it. Father said that it had done something well, so it should be allowed to survive. Bang! That lanky woman banged into Meng Tian. However, the one who fell was her. Her sharp nails penetrated the ground but didn't leave any trace on Meng Tian's skin. Devour. I want to devour you. Meng Tian finally understood what she was muttering. In the control room, number S12987 has been confirmed to be dead. In all 500 cases of the phagocytic fusion experiment, all died. It can be confirmed that the phagocytic fusion experiment has failed. The record will be sealed. Number S12967 shows a stronger body and had initial signs of abyssal physique. Raise her grade and reassign to the advanced group. Meng Tian had a new serial number, number 67. They weren't always in the training tank once they were in the advanced group. They had 2 hours of spiritual training a day. The latest experimental results showed that mental breakdowns would lead the human genes to be devoured by the Zerg genes even if they were physically able. This was also the only time left for the subjects to recall their good times as a human. Most of the staff wouldn't disturb them at this point. Thomas Gibson emerged from a single-person lounge and his gaze fell upon Meng Tian. He licked his lips and was filled with desire. Two believers of the saint were carrying out two young women that had just been used by him. They had been stripped of their vitality. He was the son of the fifth elder and had volunteered to enter this experiment willingly. He was already at the third stage. To Gibson, these people were stepping stones to his success. He loved women, and his desire for them increased with the changes in his body. He was outstanding in martial techniques and had strong ambition, but he knew that the oracle wasn't for him. But he could own his experiment. He had special privileges here. Yes, you, come over and kneel. Gibson pointed at Meng Tian and then pointed again towards his crotch. His genetic fusion was a high-end type as well, pumping him full of vitality. This woman had stimulated a certain part of his genes with just one glance. He was going to ravage her. Meng Tian looked at the other party coldly. Scram. Scram. Haha. I only know how to scram to bed. Let's go together. I will definitely bring you to heaven. Gibson licked his lips again and made a grab at Meng Tian. Suddenly, his body trembled and he turned around. An invisible wind slammed through his head and a bunch of his hair fell off. The hair seemed like live little snakes, twisting their way back to Gibson. Most turned ashen after Gibson evaded in time, but there were a few who were absorbed into his body once Gibson touched them. Lear, Fu King, stay out of my business. Gibson's blood-red eyes were onto Lear, who had just come out of his single-person lounge with Luo Fei by his side. They had passed the first stage and had very good data. Their statuses were very high as well, since they were handpicked by the Great Elder himself, Lear especially. So everything not relating to the experiment was granted to him, making Gibson inferior. Gibson, can you behave more like a human before you turn into a bloody monster? Luo Fei snorted. Fatty, hadn't slimmed down at all. Damn it. Even genetic modification couldn't make him tall, handsome, and rich. You two just take care of yourselves. It's just a woman. Why can't I have some fun with her if you two aren't going to? Gibson howled. It was impossible to know if they could come out of this bloody experiment alive, so no one could think of stopping him. Lear looked at Meng Tian quietly and vice versa. They would have never dreamt of meeting here. The heir of the Locks family and the daughter of General Meng Ao, they were once. You can do anything you want with the others, not her, Lear said. Why, do you fancy her? All the more reason for me to FCK her. Gibson shouted. I thought you were FC King impotent. I didn't think you would fancy women at all. However, I saw her first. Don't think you can do everything just because the Great Elder is behind you. You're just a pawn. I'm the eldest son of the fifth elder. Suddenly, Lear smiled, shrugged, and turned away. Gibson's expression was even more arrogant now. Yes, this kid was just a pawn of the Great Elder. How could you compare with me? Poochie. A strange sound made the entire hall quiet down. Lear's right hand was already through Gibson's chest. You, how dare? Gibson's eyes were wide with shock. He didn't think that Lear would dare to raise his hand against him here. His transformation had made his mental state unstable and dulled his reaction. Shing! Lear pulled his hand out along with a thumping heart. His hand was now 1/3 bigger than that of normal people and his nails and had turned into crystal-like claws. The staff members by the side were in a mess, though the professor in charge's eyes lit up. Such a transformation at only the first stage, extraordinary. The swell of Lear's hand faded at a speed visible to the naked eye. The heart in front of him was very tempting, giving rise to a desire to devour it. The problem was, he didn't even feel that it was disgusting. He was the noble Lear. Lear saw the look in Meng Tian's eyes. Other than firmness, there was a trace of gratitude. Suddenly, the thing in his hand felt particularly disgusting. Lear clenched his fist and it exploded. Blood splattered. Gibson's life force was amazing. He was actually clambering on the floor to find his heart fragments. His life force was different from that of humans since he was already at the third stage of the experiment. He almost didn't feel any pain. Until Luo Fei stepped on his head and flattened it. That was revolting. He wanted to have a feast later on. There wasn't much to look forward to anyway. This small request would be granted by the saint. The other subjects backed away from them. Lear wiped his hand and looked at Meng Tian. She had thought that Lear was captured, But now it seemed like that wasn't the case. Gibson said he was the pawn of the Great Elder. The locks were with the saint from the onset. Lear suddenly wanted to talk to Meng Tian to prove that he was still a human, or perhaps to say goodbye to his former identity. The staff had begun the cleanup as per normal with the orders from above. At least no one here would dare to provoke Lear. He had the Great Elder backing him, plus the effect of his transformation was very obvious. The saint would give him the greatest protection until he became a failure. I didn't think we would meet in such a place. Meng Tian, how long have we not seen each other? Lear smiled. Luo Fei didn't stay around. For some reason, he felt that Lear had released his suppressed nature after they started their transformations. He carried too many burdens on him. He had to endure too much previously when he had to portray himself as a perfect aristocrat. That was no longer necessary now. It was good to finally feel good at the last stage of life. Luo Fei was easygoing anyway. He knew his family would have a stable future due to him surviving to this stage. He had no more regrets. He was still grateful Lear had given him such a life. He only hoped that Lear could at least achieve his goals and not regret his life. Meng Tian didn't show any disgust when she looked at Lear. They might have been together if there was no Wang Zheng. Lear might have done many things, but he hadn't done anything to her. It seems to be a waste for us to talk standing. It's rare for us to have such periods of time. Let's sit there and chat, Lear said. There was some sunlight by the window still, the sunlight that belonged to humans. Meng Tian didn't reject him. She was helpless towards everything that was happening. She wanted to resist and escape, but the saint was too big. They didn't know where to start. Lear gazed out of the window. This isn't the most romantic way for our reunion. Shouldn't we cry or something? Lear, must you walk this path? Meng Tian suddenly asked. The path chose me. This is my destiny. I don't feel anything wrong with it, Lear answered with a smile. I actually have a question. It seems like there isn't anything to hide here, Meng Tian said. Speak, there really isn't anything you can't ask, Lear concurred. Why couldn't you cooperate with Wang Zheng when even Achilles and Lai Xin could accept him? Meng Tian had always felt that with Wang Zheng, Achilles, Lai Xin, and Lear from the solar system, they could definitely regain the glory of the solar system. A proud smile appeared. I'm Lear, the only Lear. He was conceited, but that was a fact of life. Lear would rather face death this way than to cooperate with Wang Zheng. This was his last shard of dignity, even if it was an easy road to his grave. Actually, I have a question too. If there was no Wang Zheng, would you have liked me? Asked Lear. In Lear's life, he had always pursued power and success. The renaissance of the solar system was like his destiny. He had missed out on a lot of things in life. If ever there was a girl that had captured his heart and, despite the many excuses, he was willing to accept her as his other half, that girl had to be Meng Tian. Meng Tian was silent for a moment. No, Lear smiled. Meng Tian was still so direct, without the slightest trace of pretense. This was probably the reason why he was attracted to her. Because he had led such a pretentious life, he craved honesty. Wang Zheng led an honest life, but since they walked the same path, they were enemies. Thanks for today. Regardless, Meng Tian should still express her thanks. I have no way of getting you out of here, but during the last days of living as a human, I hope you won't treat me as an enemy, said Lear. Meng Tian smiled. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. We've come full circle. Now, just before the end, we can be friends for once. Honestly, I'm rather jealous of Wang Zheng. He is so capable and it makes me, the handsome, rich guy, look embarrassed. I just can't understand how he can be this strong. My Ares art is a lost knowledge that has been passed down from the ancient martial arts times. Both Achilles and Lai Xin had practices passed down from their ancestors. When did he learn those? Lear smiled bitterly while shaking his head. Meng Tian could almost feel Lear's helplessness and sorrow. Thinking about it, he was rather pitiful. Lear was just splitting hairs. He had always fought earnestly with Wang Zheng when there was no need for it. This was a big world. I don't know how either, but Wang Zheng's technique is indeed very powerful. My technique was taught by him too. Meng Tian was remembering those sweet moments. Those were her best days. Actually, it was Lear's as well as hers. Lear glanced at Meng Tian. It hurts. What sort of magic spell did Wang Zheng cast on you and Aina, making both of you so obsessed? If I may, during the last moment, can I come see you? We'll just talk like this. Looking at you, I can still remember that I was once a human. Meng Tian nodded. Same here, I'm not any better off myself. Lear left. Meng Tian felt Lear letting go. There was no pretense in a place like this. Lear had never regretted it, and neither had she. She had chosen to be part of the expedition team, then chosen as the human sacrifice. What was all this? Was there an escape? Destiny seemed to have extended a hand and prevented her from escaping. All she hoped for was that Xie Yuxin and the rest could leave safely. That was all she hoped for. Boss, I can feel that you are very happy. Did you and Meng Tian make some progress? Luo Fei was really happy for Lear. He had always hoped that Lear would find some joy in life, just like him. As long as there was food, he would be happy. The tender look in Lear's eyes was gradually disappearing. He was silent for a moment. If my guess is right, Wang Zheng is the one who inherited the oracle. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. With the intelligence of the saint, they could not have not seen it. He is a sitting duck. His circumstances are not any better than mine. Luo Fei was a little startled. Was what he had seen earlier an illusion? The earlier Lear, who was bathing in good vibes, the gentleness he had when chatting with Meng Tian, were they all fake? Not only are we going to live, we are also going to make the world, who had looked down on us, abandoned us, regret it. If I can't get the world to like me, then I'll make them fear me. There was a strange confidence behind the callousness. While he was saying these words, Luo Fei felt that Lear had been completely revived. However, under the current circumstances, shouldn't he feel despair? Lear did not pay any attention to Luo Fei. He already had his answer. There had been no reason for the pressure that he had always felt from Wang Zheng. This was a devastation to Lear's confidence. If Wang Zheng was judged to be the heir of the oracle, then this passiveness changed everything. His battling schedule was already fully packed. This would be interesting. He could have no concern when he made his move. It was time to see who was better. URGHM. Boss, is there something that is making you happy? Share with me so I can share your joy. I'm in no mood to eat, said Luo Fei. Don't you think our genetic evolution is faster than the rest? Said Lear while stretching his hands. There were already signs of mutation. The process was painful, but the effects were amazing and rather combative. I don't feel much, just a bit hungry. Luo Fei scratched his head. Lear did not know what to say about this fellow. I can feel that it's our ability X's. Both of us belong to the devouring attribute, and this soul compatibility is the best. Pay more attention to this at the petri dish. Our physiques could perhaps create miracles. Regardless of whether this was true or otherwise, Lear would be working hard towards this direction. Wang Zheng's survival rate was extremely low. After all, the Great Elder was behind this. According to his judgment, the Great Elder would kill Wang Zheng if he could not acquire the oracle inheritance from him. At this stage, even if Wang Zheng had the ability to communicate with the gods, there was no way he could beat Great Elder. That inherited technique may be the strongest, but it needed time. For him, the fusion of the strongest abyssal Zerg genes was a way to jump out from the human form. He was not concerned about what he would become. The strengths that he would receive could be conquered. However, the success rate was also very low at the same time. The Saint's ultimate result was to create a new human race that perfectly combined the different genes, not some new monsters. Basically, it should keep the human form but inherit the genetic strengths and even continue to use physical techniques and ability X's. This would be the ultimate evolution. Anyone who possessed the all-rounded survivability and terrifying physical fitness of the Zerg would be reborn as a god. The possibilities for both of them were extremely low. This was a competition once again. Could Wang Zheng survive in the end, or could he make a breakthrough? If Wang Zheng was lucky enough to survive and he was also able to make a breakthrough, Lear would once again be on the same starting point as Wang Zheng. However, their stage was now the entire Milky Way alliance and maybe even the entire human race. This was what Lear craved most. As for what Meng Tian had said, there were some half-truths to it. Lear had indeed been tempted, but ultimately, this was not what he wanted. To have as much perseverance as Lear was absolutely exceptional indeed. The holy city was overcast and the aura of death filled the entire city. From the measures used by the saint, it was obvious that the battle of the oracle was no laughing matter. If they did not acquire the extra signs after 3 days, death would be a certainty. Killings in the dark were starting to run amok. As the center of the storm, the location where Wang Zheng and the rest were was usually quiet. For Wang Zheng to be chosen as one of the top 6 candidates, his strengths were already self-evident. Those who had some form of intelligence would have to weigh out their place. Besides, this was just the beginning. There was no need to show off too much. This was a person who dared to put on airs in front of the elders. Tang Yuyang also did not know whether to cry or laugh. Time was slowly slipping away. Had Catalana and Bilro been scared off? From his understanding of these two people, once they had made a decision, they would never delay. The longer it dragged on, the higher the probability of changes. Dawn was coming. Why were they not there yet? Wang Zheng was alone in the living room, waiting. Suddenly, the warning sign over his head appeared. Rumble, rumbling, King of Fire Catalana descended from the sky and the building collapsed instantly. In a flash, Catalana's figure appeared in the sky. Wang Zheng flew out from the ruins. Why are you alone? I alone am more than enough to deal with you. Your head belongs to me, but before that, I have a question, said Catalana. Kid, you can be considered a top figure in the Milky Way Alliance, but in my eyes, you're nothing. But I'm curious if you have slept with Aina. How did it feel? When the saint unifies the Milky Way Alliance, I want to give it a try too. Haha. Catalana laughed wildly. Wang Zheng became solemn. He had always been very respectful of life and death battles. Everyone had a different stance. Their goals were different, their destinies were different. Life and death battles were bound to happen. However, this person was really making him nauseous. Xie Yuxin and the rest did not move because they were sure that the opponent would definitely have something else lined up as well. Xie Yuxin was very anxious about the intelligence of these so-called holy sons of the saint. Perhaps they really had been confined for too long. They were all brawn and no brain. They had been immersed in the small circle of the saint and could not tear themselves away. He could even feel that the other party was not trying to provoke Wang Zheng, but was really interested in this question. How stupid and arrogant could he get? Honestly, he felt that the saint was not capable of conquering the world with such thinking. Where did such confidence come from? With this motley crew? Those powers that had infiltrated the different countries? These were all useless. Once a country had made up its mind, that little power would go up in ashes. Were they relying on Wang Zheng's secret technique? Even if the technique could help these elders power up tremendously, something seemed to be missing still. Xie Yuxin could not figure out what, but he seemed to have found some clues. Aina was the reason Wang Zheng had powered up. The person here was no longer a match for him. Anyone who insulted Aina would die. Grunting, Wang Zheng's figure disappeared. In an instant, he appeared in front of Catalana. But Catalana disappeared at the same time too. The two figures continuously interchanged in the air and on the ground. Following closely with the violent explosive sounds, Catalana's body was shrouded in spirit fire. Protected by the spirit fire, all ability X's were useless as it burning everything. Bang! Their fists struck each other. They were evenly matched. However, Catalana smiled coldly and his body accelerated suddenly. A ball of flames shrouded Wang Zheng completely. The violent punches struck Wang Zheng like rain. Go to hell! Flames bursting, Catalana clenched his fist and instantly made a kill shot, bang! Wang Zheng was smashed straight into the ground. Many people were watching this battle quietly everywhere in the holy city. Other killings were mostly done in secret. But there were no concerns when it came to the battles between the core candidates of the Holy Sun. Catalana's violent power of the flames had no fear of any form of attack. Besides, his strong and powerful attacks were unusually fast. Having comprehended the inner universe, he was now invincible. There was nothing here that could harm his body. What bloody greatest king? He was completely vulnerable. I am the king of fire, who else is there? In the night sky, Catalana was high-spirited. If even the greatest king was so vulnerable, the title of the Holy Sun was his for sure. The rest were nobodies. Only by worshipping him would they have a chance to survive. Suddenly, a clear laughter was heard in the night sky. It broke through everything. Wang Zheng's figure had appeared in midair out of nowhere. I have seen people who are conceited, but someone as foolish as you. This has to be a first. As he said these words, Wang Zheng lightly pointed out. This person's inner universe had indeed been formed, however, his comprehension of the atomic force was still superficial. Buzzing, a golden light wave blasted in the darkness. Catalana welcomed it gladly. Ever since he had mastered the inner universe, and with the protection of the spirit fire, nothing could harm him. Bang, buzzing, whoosh, bang, Catalana's body froze in midair momentarily. A huge depression appeared on his chest. In the next second, he was flung out like a golf ball. Grunting, Wang Zheng's figure pursued instantly. The 256-point blade technique allowed him to have powers that were beyond his imagination. On Tita Star, the plentiful vitality had helped him practice. There was a saying that a person who had made great progress in a short period of time should be treated differently. Wang Zheng had grown by leaps and bounds through his experiences at SIG. Of course, the 256-point blade technique was the key. It was a completely different view of the universe. Wang Zheng caught hold of Catalana instantly. As a result of inertia, Catalana's body suddenly rose. There was a look of disbelief in his eyes. Wang Zheng did not waste any time and flung Catalana straight into the air. A strike of the blade and a ray of golden light pierced through the sky. Bang! The entire holy city seemed to have gone completely silent following this strike. The legendary Holy Sun candidate was actually this weak? This was simply preposterous. Bilro, who was all ready to compliment Catalana, had stopped in his tracks. He was preparing to help Catalana kill Wang Zheng if Catalana was not able to do it himself. Except, this difference. How could there be someone this powerful? Jondi Lilac and the rest were also speechless. Wang Zheng used to be almost on par with them, or perhaps at least a level higher. However, right now, Jondi Lilac was obviously not the first one, nor the last one, to receive such a setback. Wang Zheng's gaze swept across the night sky. He could clearly feel that there were three great powers in the holy city. The weakest, if they were to fight, he could maybe stand a winning chance. However, the other two were too strong. One was so powerful that he did not even know the depth of the power. He could not make any rash moves. In the holy city, the great elder opened his eyes and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It was indeed so. Although it had been confirmed, the battle today had confirmed this 100%. Wang Zheng's martial technique was indeed the inheritance of the oracle. Once he got hold of this ultimate, profound martial technique, he would be on his way to heaven. The Aslan Empire would become the dominator of mankind. From then on, mankind would be perfectly unified. A truly free elite world would be established. A smile had also appeared at the corner of the second elder's mouth. So, this was it was this kid. The power they now possessed was not merely because of their talents and hard work, but also the clairvoyant inheritance of the elders of all ages. For Wang Zheng to possess such pure power, only the first Holy Lord could possess the legendary martial technique and the secret to the way to heaven. What the great elder wanted was what he wanted too. Now it was a matter of how to get it out of this Wang Zheng kid. With this strength, unless one was heaven rank, there was no way to suppress him anymore. A pity, he was still so inexperienced. Did he not realize that such a setup was to get him to expose himself? Constantine stood up, shrouding the entire holy city in a horrible pressure. These candidates finally had a taste of the pressure from the heaven rank warriors. Wang Zheng might be very far, but he felt a mixture of murderous intent and excitement in this aura. Xie Yuxin smiled. Wang Zheng's plan had worked. The question now was if they could hold out through this period of time. A huge part of the saint's objective was Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng could feel that consciousness pry into him. His expression became serious as he used his spiritual power to counterattack and confront directly. He was facing the constraints of time and space whilst putting up the defenses. That took a lot out of him. The spiritual power of the other party was insistent on taking over and controlling him completely. Xie Yuxin knew that this wasn't working in their favor. His eyes shone and formed a barrier around Wang Zheng's body. Xie Yuxin's spiritual power was usually strong. Not only that, It was different from ordinary people's spiritual power, blocking Constantine's attack. Constantine was surprised. The two young men weren't bad at all, but it was such a pity. They might be talents, but he knew very clearly that he had to weed them out. Wang Zheng had to die. He was the successor, and whatever he would do would definitely affect the empire. Constantine levitated. He himself would attack. The second elder was hesitating, wondering if he should attack as well. He would have no chance left if it was controlled by the great elder. However, 13th elder was still here, and there were only the three of them around in this city. This was probably arranged by the great elder as well. Now what remained was to see if his own attacks would work. He should not let the great elder destroy this opportunity at the very least. Wang Zheng's existence was of utmost importance to the other elders. Kong Siki and Huo Dong had already cracked the system in the laboratory by this time. Yuan Jing and Menga slipped in. The Oracle Star was almost empty. The fleet and core forces were preparing to meet the enemy outside, while the internal forces were focused on the Holy City. This place was completely ignored now that the Great Elder had put all his concentration on Wang Zheng. The objects of interest were all in the Holy City, so Yuan Jing and Menga were completely ignored. It was the same for Tan Yuyang. These guys were trash. This was a show. The useless, small characters would always be the key in a plan. Rescue Meng Tian. Yuan Jing and Menga were determined to save Meng Tian. She was their captain and the meaning of their existence. Menga saw her in the petri dish and slammed his fist on it. He smashed a dozen petri dishes in succession. Meng Tian, wake up. Yuan Jing, bring her out first, I'll take care of the back. The alarm sounded and a series of guards rushed out with several disciples of the saint. Go. Menga howled and nodded at Yuan Jing. Yuan Jing dashed out with Meng Tian on his back. Menga's gaze landed softly and passionately on Meng Tian. Come on, assholes. Remember, my name is Menga. The warriors of the Milky Way Galaxy Military College were not afraid of death. Yuan Jing gnashed his teeth without turning back. He couldn't turn back. He had to bring Meng Tian out alive. Menga blocked everyone by himself. An Earth-rank warrior at full power was very fierce as well. Menga didn't plan on leaving alive anyway. Someone had to be sacrificed in this plan. He was willing to sacrifice himself for Meng Tian, his captain and the woman he had always loved. Killing one would break even. Killing two means I've earned it. The mad Menga made it difficult for the saint's people to close in on him. A gray-robed disciple fell again. Menga felt that he might have a chance to survive at this point in time. He rushed to the window while they were still unsure about what to do with him. He would survive as long as he jumped through that window. Menga's body stiffened when he was just 1 meter away from the window. A hand was through his body. It was Lear. Menga threw a punch when he turned back, but Lear dodged it effortlessly. He twisted Menga's neck after looking at him coldly. Professor Sharjah rushed over and looked at Lear in awe. As the person in charge of the experiment, he could feel that Lear and Luo Fei were different from the others. The theory that Lear had brought up about matching the effect of ability X was probably right. This was his hindsight, but when Lear was willing to cooperate and was eager for success, the two of them hit off immediately, regretting only that they hadn't met each other earlier. There's no need to chase. More trash won't take us anywhere. Professor Sharjah, my second phase is starting soon. It does not matter to us if the outside world is destroyed, Lear said lightly. Clean this up and isolate the laboratory. Put all resources and energy on Lear and Luo Fei. Allow no one to disturb us, Professor Sharjah said. Lear's one sentence had conquered Sharjah. Lear's question was, what Sharjah did want? Fame. That was never what he pursued. Only fools and vulgar beings would waste their time on that. He pursued the mysteries in the genes. Anything could be sacrificed if a new and most outstanding species could be born from his hands. This was something Lear could give him, which was why he listened to Lear. Lear was his only target. He gave a final glance towards Yuan Jing carrying Meng Tian outside of the window. This was Lear's final farewell to humanity. Constantine felt the oracle within his fingertips. No one could escape from his grasp in the oracle star. The door opened and out came a distraught Lin Huiyan when he was about to attack. Grandpa, are these real? You use live people for experiments and did many bad things. Constantine frowned. His spiritual power responded in kind, in anger. Lin Weiyan had seen countless images and videos from a video recorder someone had given to her. These were all the doings by the saint, including many inhumane experiments. They had died innocently. She knew that the saint was a terrorist organization, but she hadn't witnessed their acts. She couldn't feel anything and could only retreat back to her shell like a snail. Weiyan broke down upon seeing these. Her beautiful world collapsed. Constantine controlled his anger. Weiyan, those are fake. Grandpa would never do that. Grandpa, are you going to kill big brother Wang Zheng? Can you not kill him? I like him. Big sister also likes him. Kill me first if you want to kill him. Weiyan saw the screen with Wang Zheng on. Weiyan, you are the princess of Aslan. That person is a threat to the Aslan Empire, so he must die. Constantine was indignant. How could Weiyan appear at such a critical moment? He was just one step away from success. Weiyan's face drained of color. So you are going to kill him? Wang Zheng's sense disappeared. Constantine's spiritual power boomed and Weiyan collapsed. Constantine's figure disappeared and reappeared in the skies over the temple. You want to run? You're dreaming. They were gone by the time Constantine arrived where they were. He didn't find anything even after using his spiritual power to search throughout the city. They must have gone out of the holy city then. They had to find him, no matter what it would take. The temple gave orders to change the task to a full-scale one. He wanted Wang Zheng to be captured alive or to see his corpse if he was dead. Anyone who managed to capture him alive would instantly become the son of Saint, while anyone who killed Wang Zheng would instantly become an elder. The great elder sobered up immediately after he calmed down. Who could show Weiyan the kind of thing she saw? Only the second elder or the 13th elder. It was impossible for the 13th, so it must have been the second elder. Second elder Tan Yuyang and the rest were already on the space shuttle ready to leave the Oracle Star. The second elder knew he had to make a choice. His power was only second to that of Constantine. Since the Oracle was a type of martial technique, it was impossible to share. He would have no hope once Constantine obtained it. Therefore, he had to find a way to let Wang Zheng leave. Only then would he have a chance. As the second elder of the saint, many of the matters were arranged by him. The real battle was just about to begin. The person who obtained the oracle would be the winner. What's happening on Wang Zheng's end? The second elder asked. Tan Yuyang smiled. Alan Tucker is with them. He is in charge of our space project. It's not a problem to leave, it's just a bit too good for this guy. The second elder smiled. We'll disappear for a while. The Milky Way alliance will be very lively. Wang Zheng and the rest appeared in the transmission array near the misty forest outside of the holy city. They were waiting for Yuan Jing's team. They took the risk to appear before the enemy so that they could rescue Meng Tian. There wouldn't be another chance like this if this failed. Time trickled away. The holy city started its search, and people in groups of 3 to 5 had expanded their search area to outside of the holy city. Every candidate was gunning for the generous reward for capturing Wang Zheng. Money, martial technique, power, status, they were all here. The transmission array finally lit up and a spirited old man appeared. Old Merchant. Wang Zheng beamed. It was such a happy affair to be able to see Old Merchant here. He thought that it was an illusion that Old Merchant had managed to connect with him, but there were some things that only the two of them would know. Lad, you've grown taller, not bad. However, this is no time to catch up. Is everyone here? Old Merchant smiled. He had been in the saint for this moment. It was time to leave. Yuan Jing's team isn't here yet. Old Merchant opened his skylink. They will arrive soon. I'll cut off all communication with this place once they do. The Mars brothers and Jondi Lilac felt as though they were in a lucid dream. Wang Zheng, was this really the person who could bring about a miracle? To be honest, most of them had accepted their fate being here. Their best ending would be to perish in a fierce battle. In the end, they were leaving. Wang Zheng, who is this gentleman? Jondi Lilac asked curiously. Old Merchant? He had never heard of this name. He was obviously not a warrior, but he had a strong presence. This is my master. His other name is Alan Tucker, Wang Zheng said. Old Merchant wasn't just Wang Zheng's master, but his kin. He had a very vague recollection of his own parents. Old Merchant was the one caring for him. Alan Tucker, That Alan Tucker? John D. Lillick asked with a shock. No human would be foreign to the greatest scientist of this era, Alan Tucker. Mars and Olivius were shocked as well. The man mentioned in their textbooks, whose contribution to physics and mathematics was unparalleled. Old Merchant was pretty satisfied that he still had such influence after disappearing for so long. Yuan Jing appeared with Meng Tian on his back, followed by Kong Siki and Huo Dong. Mars and Olivius went up to them immediately, and Old Merchant activated the transmission array immediately. They were really going to leave the Oracle Star now. Old Merchant didn't have anything to miss from his time here. He had stopped his obsession with parallel space at his age. All he hoped for now was to have Wang Zheng grow up quickly. It would be perfect if Wang Zheng could give him a baby, a grandchild, to cradle. They disappeared from the Oracle Star. Old Merchant set many confusing points in his route. They circled around in an escape route that Old Merchant had prepared a long time back. For safety purposes, he was barely in contact with Wang Zheng all these years. Even the Circle of Elders didn't think that Alan Tucker was connected with Wang Zheng. In their eyes, Old Merchant and Professor Sharjah were similar breeds of mad scientists. They were both elites, persecuted by the Milky Way Alliance. There were many things that they couldn't stop. Alan Tucker and the Second Elder's disappearance and the rest of the matters made Constantine mad with fury. Wang Zheng had definitely been stolen from under his nose, and by the heaven rank master beside him. The Aslan Empire couldn't turn back now. The annihilation plan was to be implemented immediately. In the vast universe, a huge fleet consisting of warriors from 20 countries marched on. It was clear that no one would dare to provoke them. Aslan seemed to champion the command of the fleet, but in fact, the participating countries were all aiming to play a significant part in the annihilation of the Saint Church. They were now clear about the origin of the Saint Church. They were too naive. Their era was gone, and restoring their glory was just a dream. Nonetheless, everyone wanted the mysterious power and technology the Saint Church had. Their wealth had to be insurmountable as well. The creation of Roland Garros was the envy of many. Aslan had been active because they wanted to save their princess, so they had always been campaigning to be the main force. However, the other countries weren't dumb either. Especially the Arbiter Republic. The gap between their countries would become too huge if Aslan were to take the lead. The Arbiter Republic would be able to surpass Aslan if they were to get hold of the Oracle. The Arbiter Republic, Manalasuo, and the other stronger countries ganged up together to suppress Aslan. The princess could be a reason, but that was a private matter. It wasn't an international practice. If they were to go by geographical jurisdiction, it would be und Lea Sphinx. Lea Sphinx had apparently reached an agreement with the Arbiter Republic in Manalasuo. All of them were prepared to balance out the power of the Aslan Empire. An ally like the Atlantis had been the jealousy of many countries for quite a long while. This contradiction made the relationship unstable. The Milky Way Alliance was very lively, and the media was having a field day. They were waiting for the triumph return of the fleet. Only the solar system remained silent as usual. That was the code that the solar system had maintained throughout the past few decades. Of course, they firmly supported the counterattack on the terrorist group and gave their resources as well. They were only hoping to be cautious. Any terrorist groups daring to threaten the Milky Way Alliance definitely had backing. The fleet this time was too huge, representing humanity's dignity. Humanity had no rivals for so many years in interstellar exploration. The commanders of the various countries said that they would deliver the enemy a fatal blow, but could they really? The higher echelons of the solar system had been arguing over whether or not they should send a fleet. Many believed that this was an opportunity for the solar system. They had been lying low while honing themselves, especially so in the past 2 decades. Their finances had been used for military expansion, which increased exponentially every year. Wouldn't it be the best time to show the results? The opportunity was great. The risk was rather small when tugging behind the Alliance fleet as well. Showcasing their prowess in front of the other countries had been in their thoughts for some time now. In the end, Parliament rejected it. It was contrary to the trend and caused an uproar. Was this action something the solar system should take? What constituted the big powers? They had to show influence in international affairs and they had resources, but what about the military? Dramok, Lai Wuqing, and Meng Ao were under tremendous pressure. The reformists had the upper hand. However, they were suddenly paralyzed when it was time to showcase their strength. This was giving the conservatives a chance to fight back. Their days weren't going to be easy. Fortunately, Yi Bingwen gave them great support in parliament. The real strength wasn't in following the crowd. The strength of the fleet was there. Due to their geological location, the solar system fleet could only join them 3 days later. Obviously, this was too much, so they would be better as logistical support. In any case, was sending a small fleet a manifestation of their power? That would just be herd mentality. Yi Bingwen knew that the people were just not happy. The sage was also a theist. He doubted that, but he respected him. The Lai family wouldn't say something for no reason. They specifically sought Yi Bingwen out to obtain his support. Mars and the moon had always been supportive of him. Yi Bingwen reserved his own opinion on this matter. Something else would have to be going on if he could make a decision even though Meng Ao's own daughter was there. Titan star, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and lightning and thunder struck. Someone saw huge figures in the skies tearing through the woods. Of course, the only ones that fit the bill would be the elite forces of the Tita giants. The strongest force on Tita was the Saruman snake battle team. That's in the Holy Land. Could the legend be true? What? I've never heard of the Holy Land. That's the forbidden zone of the Titans, they can't even enter. Legend has it that they were born there. Recently, there were rumors that the Holy Land has had some strange sightings. I don't know if that's true or not. The Saruman snake battle team has been deployed, so something must be happening. Please don't let anything happen to Tita. It just obtained peace, my home is here. Wang Zheng and the rest were on the way to Tita. They had mulled over it for quite some time, changing their course numerous times. The influence of the saint was everywhere. Old Merchant knew that, so they had to be cautious all the way until they arrived at Tita. It was the only place where they could protect Wang Zheng. The crowd in the simple cabin still found it hard to believe, even if it was Alan Tucker, how was it possible? I only realized it recently. The Saint and the Aslan Empire must have a connection. Yuan Jing, you didn't see Wei Yan when you barged into the laboratory, right? Old Merchant laughed bitterly. Yuan Jing's expression turned serious. I didn't see her, but I don't have any recollection. Perhaps she's being held somewhere special? Kong Siki and Huo Dong exchanged glances. We didn't find Wei Yan when we invaded their system, perhaps. I inevitably came into contact with some of the Saint's core secrets when I was put in charge of the space project and the fleet transfer. There had been many clues pointing towards Aslan over the past few years. No, I am certain. I just didn't know how deep the participation of the Aslan Empire is, Old Merchant sighed. That was precisely when he felt that this was even more scary than he had thought. Isn't the expedition of the Alliance really dangerous? If that's the case, we should report it immediately, Mars suddenly said. John D. Lilac agreed wholeheartedly. Old Merchant shook his head bitterly. We have no evidence. Don't pin your hopes on me either. I'm in the blacklist of the Milky Way Alliance. Moreover, the Aslan Empire could have numerous excuses. There's no use. I'm only giving you a heads up. This was why Old Merchant wanted Wang Zheng to leave with him. Wang Zheng would listen to no one but Old Merchant. There was no helping the situation even if he were to stay. They could save Meng Tian, but they could never get close to Lin Weiyan. Moreover, Old Merchant felt that something major was going to happen soon. It wasn't something Wang Zheng could be involved in for now. What they needed to do now was hide well until the situation improved. They were definitely the be at top of the Saints' wanted list. John D. Lilac and the rest were smart. This was a suspicion at best without any evidence. Unless there was some incriminating evidence, there was no helping things. Xie Yuxin had been silent throughout the journey, staring at the galaxy outside. It seemed extraordinary. If it wasn't for Wang Zheng, he could have been there playing for a bit longer. A nice show might be underway. Wang Zheng and Old Merchant's destination was Tita Star. It would be difficult for the Saint to reach the huge Tita unless they were really in cohorts with the Milky Way Alliance. Xie Yuxin, John D. Lilac, and the rest were going to return to Elite Academy X. Of course, they would be questioned, but they had prepared their stories. They would be dead the moment they stepped onto Roland Garros if all this was true. However, they didn't know who their enemy was now, and they didn't want to just fall into the hands of the enemy. Yuan Jing, Kong Siki, and Huo Dong would follow Meng Tian wherever she wanted to go, be it the Galaxy Military College or Tita. Wang Zheng and Meng Tian didn't have a chance to be alone throughout the trip. Their glances met and Meng Tian's determination nearly melted. This was her only man. These few young people certainly felt the pressure. Old Merchant was very calm. He had gone through too much throughout his life. The peaks, the troughs, all that didn't matter to him anymore. He had no other desires. Whatever Wang Zheng wanted to do would be what he wanted to do.